Welcome to the Choice, Change and Action podcast, where you get to choose, change and take action to create a different today and a different future. These are my stories of choice, change and action, along with the phenomenal guests I have on here. From a really young age, I've always desired to create a change in the world. The planet has been a constant inspiration to me, and Access Consciousness has shown me the tools to know that anything is possible. And I keep choosing. What are you going to choose? Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Choice, Change and Action podcast. You are with me, Simone Milasas, and today I have on here, I'm not going to say her last name. I asked if she could say it because I'll just butcher it. Oh, let me give it a shot. Karen Vanthuyne. Thin. Anyone from Europe will know that noise that you do with your mouth is very it's like that upper Europe thing I get, like that, so you're from Belgium and you're in Belgium at the moment. So now Karen's also an Access Consciousness facilitator, and I noticed that she was doing something a little bit different, and I wanted to interview her about it and just have a little chat about what she's doing. So you're an Access Consciousness facilitator, but what you've also started doing is writing these erotic short stories. Now, not only are you writing the erotic short stories, but I've noticed that you're actually giving, there's programs and courses, etc., that people can come to. So, which we can go into that, and we're going to have it all on the show notes. So if you want to join in, you can find out more about where to find Karen and her erotic writing programs. So, but the first thing I wanted to ask you was, I read some of the notes that you wrote, and you were talking about that you desired to write and you desired to look at this. And then how did you write it? I wrote it down here. You said you heard beautiful stories, but it missed the passion in it, the fantasy, the deepest thoughts, the freedom, the eroticism. And I found that really interesting because I get the sense that so many people in the world sort of have this, like, this is the way I'm supposed to be. This is the way I'm supposed to think. Like, I'm not supposed to, be too outside of the box. Okay, you're allowed to have sex. You're allowed to, have all of that. But then everything else seems to be hidden. And what if it wasn't hidden? And that's what I liked, the way that you started addressing this with the, erotic stories. And you said you continue to delve into the erotic writing, and you wrote at least one short story a day, which, by the way, you can find that all on Karen's website. I'm not going to say her last name again. On Karen's website, like I said, it'll all be in the show notes as well. So one of the things I wanted to start with is, what is eroticism to you?
It's also the passion inside you bring out, and you have freedom with that, because there's a lot of no space on it. So with the writing, you can discover what's in you, what your fantasies are, but also what do you like and what do you don't like. So you have the capacity to say, I don't want this, because lots of people, they can't talk about it or they don't feel it. And it's like a discovering in yourself and your sexuality. What do you want? What are your fantasies?
Yeah, it's an interesting topic, because I get that so many people, they already know what they know to an extent of what they would like. But like you said, it's like they don't want to ask for it. Like the amount of, one of the classes that I do is Relationship Done Different. And we've got, Relationship Done Different facilitators all over the world. And one of the things that I noticed that pops up a lot is that people, like especially women, they don't want to ask the man for what it is that they want. Like if they want sex in a particular way or a certain position, or there's things that are considered almost like taboo to talk about. If I think about my parents, it's like, and I remember I was talking about blowjobs one day or something, and my mum was just horrified, like the fact that you would even talk about a blowjob. And I was like, oh my God, my poor father, I actually don't think he ever got a blowjob. Like it was like he died without getting one, but it's such a common thing, or it's like, cunnilingus, going down on a woman, is such a common thing. And it's like, and I don't think that everybody has to choose everything, but for me, it's like, what if you had everything available so that you could choose it and nothing was wrong? And the thing I notice is when people go, oh, this is perverted. So say, for instance, my mother would have said, you know, giving a man a blowjob is perverted. Well, I think it's really fun. So it's like, you know, that's just two different points of view. And what I notice is if someone has a judgment about something, then they decide it's perverted. But when there's no judgment, there is no perversion. It's just an exploration. I mean, if you look at anal sex, that's a huge one. Like people, you know, either enjoy anal sex or they don't. But if they don't, they're sort of like, can we not talk about this now? And it's like, well, what if it's all a choice? You don't need to have anal sex, but you don't need to have a judgment of it either. So I like where you're sort of heading down this road of, my sense is taking people out of their judgments. So can you walk us through how, I mean, I know that you said you started writing and looking at these stories, but there wasn't enough of this, like you said, the fantasy and all of that in there. So how did that sort of like rumble up for you? Like where did you start with this?
I was thinking yesterday about where I really started, and it was like with a boyfriend, an ex-boyfriend of me. It was not a good relationship, and he lies about everything to me. And I was thinking also about the sex we had, which was like he was also lying to me, and it was not good for my trust, my confidence. So I had a problem with myself then. What about my sex life? And I couldn't talk about anyone about that. And I was sitting with that problem in my head. And then afterwards, I want to make a post on Facebook. And I was thinking the whole day, is it a good one? Is it not a good one? So I didn't post it. And then I follow writing courses. And I also missing the humor, the sexuality in it. So it was like to discover for myself, what can I do about it? Also with like the sexual problem with my ex-boyfriend. And then it changed. And I see if you change it, if you write about it, if you take action about it, you can open it and discover it, all the things on it. Yeah.
What's actually going on for you. So when you said you went to write a post on Facebook, but what were you trying to get out there on Facebook?
Yeah, just a post that I like to write it to the other people, but it was like something on it. So it was like not in freedom to post it. And now I post something, it's freedom for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm finding, I actually had a conversation with someone about social media today, because I was getting a little like frustrated with my social media, because I said, I feel like it's just a sales page. I feel like all we ever put out there is just, here's a class, there's a class, here's a class, there's a class, here's a class, there's a class. And that's not what I'm about. I would really like every single person in the world to know that there's a different possibility in every area of their life. So that's why, hence, when I saw you did this, I went, oh, that's interesting. Like, let's, what if we brought that out for people, you know, and you were able to invite that into your life? Like, I mean, for me, I think you writing it down is so brilliant, and that you have the capacity to do that. And also taking it one step further, it's like that. And again, I want to reiterate here, because some people I know love sex and love having sex all the time, and all, you know, the touch, feeling, all of that. And then there's others who just are not interested. That is okay. Neither is right or wrong. I really would like to reiterate that. But what I've noticed throughout my life is, I'm going to say my sex life has gotten better and better and greater and greater. I think I have less judgment and more like, let's play and see what this shows up like, you know. But yeah, it's like when I was younger, it was just like, oh my God, you know, and now it's just like, oh yeah. And if you take that one step further, like what if you were able to write all of this down that you know, talk about, and take it one step further, and actually be able to sit down with someone and say, hey, do you want to play? Like, do you want to look at this or play with this, etc.? But you've also got to be willing for someone to say no. Like say, hey, no, that's not going to work for me, or whatever. It's like, but it doesn't make you wrong. Like if there's something that you want to play with and somebody else doesn't, it doesn't make you wrong. It's just your point of view. It's just what might be fun for you, because it's been such a, I mean, look at the sex industry, sex reality, all of that. It's the oldest in the world, you know, it's been around forever, like literally. It's like bodies and sex, that's it. We're here. But you go through all these phases of how people have looked at it in the world. And I would like people to have a hell of a lot of freedom in every area of their life. And I'd also really like people to have freedom with this. So I love this. So I noticed you wrote down, so you have these programs coming up. I was interested why you have programs that are for men and then you have programs that are just for women, like just for men, just for women.
And the first,
What was that?
creation thing, I did it the two together, but then I got the awareness I must do it separately, because women maybe can talk about the sex life if they want to talk about it. They're not, if they don't want it, they must do it that. But maybe the safer place for them if they only talk with women, and also for the men it's also safer place. So that's why I'm keeping that apart.
And see what shows up.
Yeah.
You know, we did a class many years ago in Australia with Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness, and this is so long ago that at that stage, Dane here, who's the co-creator, he was doing the recording, and he had to go home to America because his sister was getting married. So I was doing the recording of the seminar, and we had this one night that was just men only. The next night was women only, and then the next 2 days were the men and women together. So I was doing the recording, and Gary said to me, okay, so you're here in the room with the men only. You just need to make yourself infinite. And if we talk about making yourself infinite, it's like not secret hidden. It was just being so much space that it wasn't obvious that I was there. So, you know, I clicked all the buttons, record, etc. And then I actually just lay down on the ground next to all the equipment so that they couldn't really see me. And I just sort of relaxed and lay down and listened. Honestly, I feel like I was one of the luckiest women in the world. It was such a beautiful evening with these men talking, and how they genuinely just really desired to be available for their partner, find out what it is that she would like. And, you know, and most of them were going to the wrongness of what they had already decided they weren't doing, or, you know, this judgment they had of themselves. And it was just amazing. It was so beautiful to see these like gentle, kind men just being really vulnerable. And then the next night we had all the women, and truthfully, I mean, I think I can get away with saying this too, they were not that nice. Like all they did was complain about the men and what they weren't doing. Whereas the men were so like, what else can I do? What else can I be, sort of thing. And then the women were complaining about the men. And I was like, wow. And then we had the 2 days together, and the whole 2 days, most of the men just sat there and hardly said anything. And it was the women who were talking. And I was like, wow, what if we just took a step away from that for a second? And what if we actually acknowledged that? I mean, you know, we were brought up with men are supposed to go and be the breadwinners and do all of that and come home, and, you know, the women are supposed to do the laundry and look after the kids and cook. And to me, that's so twisted. Like a lot of the times the women are the ones who want to go out and conquer the world, and the men are great nesters and nurturers, and you know, wouldn't mind staying at home or work it out, create something different. And I just noticed that these 2 days, it was so much about the women sort of, you know, overtaking this rather than actually being willing to put their barriers and walls down and just go, hey, you know, what is it that we could choose together and take some action on to create something greater? So if you're listening to this right now and any of this, you know, feels like something that you've been functioning from, I just ask you to just be with yourself for a moment and push those barriers and walls down. And like take a big breath. And it's like, you know, you can put your hands on your body somewhere and just ask, it's like, what is it that you would like to be in relationship? What is it like you'd like to be with your body, with your partner's body, anybody? And not from this force, not from control, but what is actually going to bring you joy, and not from having to fight anything. And what if that's actually a possibility? There's a really different possibility available. So play with that, and everything that is times a godzillion, destroy and uncreate it, right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, nine shorts, boys, provids, and beyonds. That's the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement, which you can find out more on theclearingstatement.com. So some of the questions that you have written out here is, I'm just going to read them because I think people, and I want you to talk about how this sort of engages and works in with this erotic story, you know, writing. Is you've asked, do you feel disconnected from some of your thoughts? Do you know you can feel more sexy? Do you feel like a fraud? Do you have fantasies that you are shy to share? That just makes me smile, that one. I feel like I'm like, what other fantasies do I have that I haven't talked about? Are you tired of frustrations and feeling less? And are you excitable and have an urge to do some writing? And that's your invitation to people to come along. It's like, what's that next, I mean, besides like signing up for one of your programs, but it's like, how do people start exploring that energy? Like, what would you recommend? Like, where to next with that? What would you recommend, Karen? What sort of, where do they go from there?
It's a different awareness if you let be yourself, and also with your sensuality, sexuality, open up and discover what do you want, what do you like, what is your fantasy, what is inside you would come out. It's a whole different thing than you put your barriers on, and it's like I'm afraid to having sex with somebody. It's a whole other energy. Yeah.
So what was writing your first erotic novel like?
It was weird also of writing it, and also to share the first story I shared and I read it in the class. It was very exciting to see and hear what other people thinking of it. And it was not in a group of erotic writing, so it was just in a normal writing group. They write romance or something, or autobiography.
Uh-huh.
And then I read an erotic short story. It was like, ooh, what do they think about it? And it was like fun to me to do it. Yeah, to see what is the reaction of the people. Yeah.
What was the reaction?
It was funny and they laughed, and maybe some red cheeks. Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? So what do you get that's from? It's from like you actually addressing the truth of everything. Because when you say erotic stories, it's like, I mean, it is you're true. It's like it's people talking about their fantasies, talking about what it is they'd actually like to be choosing. So did you turn that into like your erotic stories? Do you live them? Have you played more? Have you really explored more since you've been writing?
Yeah. And also every story I write, I don't put a name on it, because if I read a story with a name, I'm direct thinking of, oh, that's he or she, and I didn't read the story anymore. So I use she or he, and then you can fantasy more about it because no name.
Yeah. So you put your own little, whoop, everyone can read it and put their own vision of who that is. I love that. So, and I like it because it's really, it is this place of like no more hiding and no more limitations. It's like, I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen? You know?
Yeah. It's like you can, and if you have sex with somebody, you can have a lot of nerves for it and stress, and you can also have fun and laugh and talk to each other. It's a whole other thing.
Yeah. No, I love that. Well, I mean, most of the men I know and any men that I've spoken to, they're actually really grateful when you say what it is that you would like, because then they're not trying to work it out. And it's like, I know I'm grateful too. I'm like, hey, I like, if you're giving me some feedback on something or making some noises or doing something that I'm just like, oh yeah, this is good. This is fun for you. This is fun for me. Let's go. What else can we explore, rather than in your head going, do they actually like this? Like, you know, so I just love this because this is the world I would like to live in. This is the world that I think we can choose. I mean, hence the name of my podcast, choose, you know, change and action. Like, what change can you make and what action can you take? So what action can they take? I know you've got these, I'm on your website, my other computer at the moment. And if you say your website name, and then we will have it in the notes, in the show notes. And then what is it that is available?
So they can choose for my ebooks, so the erotic stories. I've got also them in audiobooks. They can choose for the ebook 69 Aphrodisiacs in the Kitchen. They can choose for ebook tips and tricks. They can choose for the introductory workshop, so it's all a taster to the erotic writing program. They can choose to the 7 days of discovering your sexualness. It's an email sequence, and they can choose for private sessions. And I've got something new, not on my website yet. They can choose for the vagina pillows. I'm making it.
Okay, so everyone, if you're listening to us on Spotify, if you flip over to YouTube, you can check this out. You're going to have to put that up again, but you're going to need to put it in front of your face because the thing goes that. So if you put the vagina pillow up in front of your face, I love it. There you go. So there's a vagina pillow that's available, and I'm sure it will be available on Karen's website soon. That's hilarious. I love it. It's great. It's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So is there anything else, any other tools or anything that you'd like to leave the listeners with to have more freedom with this?
Yeah, it's like you can break free with all the projection of this life and all the lives about sexuality, sexualness, and it's like not being stuck anymore. So it's like live and go out. You have the freedom with this.
Okay, so you're just talking about that. I'm just going to go over something because this is an access consciousness tool, and what we talk about is the elements of sex, because most people go sex, right? And then they go, oh, that's copulation. And it's like, no, copulation is copulation. And what we talk about is the elements of sex is you've got one that's a sensuality, and that's like that being touched and caressed and held. You know, it's what bodies like. Bodies like to be touched. So, and even, oh God, even though that like really light touch is just wonderful, right? So that's the sensuality. Then you've got sex, and that's like when you're, you know, looking good, feeling good, walking tall, strutting your stuff. It's like, you know, when that people are walking around just going, yeah, and you feel great. Like, it's like, it's a great day. And you've got this whole, you know, I guess this vibration going on with every molecule in your body. And then the copulation is when you're actually putting the body parts together. So copulation, you know, that's actually what most people refer to as sex. The sexuality is, most of the time, the sexuality is always, it's a judgment and this like diminishment of what you're willing to receive. Because a lot of the times, I'll give you a really classic example, is like, you know, if someone is straight and then they're like, oh, I'm straight, and they keep saying I'm straight, I'm straight, I'm straight, and then they have a point of view about gay, right? Okay, so you've just gone into judgment and you've created diminishment of you and a diminishment of someone else, and this lack of receiving. Okay, you can be straight, you can be gay, you can be anything. It's like, but what if you didn't judge it? I mean, God, nowadays we've got so many different, you know, pronouns, names, all that sort of stuff. And what if everyone had this choice? There was this infinite choice for you to choose what works for you. So that's the sexuality. And then you've got the sexualness, which is about having that energy of gifting and receiving. It's like, it's the energy of life, what you feel in nature when there's like no judgment. And it's just like, like I did this photo shoot the other day, and I was in my house getting lots of photos taken. And then we went into the backyard and I could hear the ocean and the wind was blowing in my face, and I had all the trees and the grass. And it's like, you're just so easy to shut my eyes and just go, oh, yes. And it's like that sexualness, like the earth is that all the time. And a lot of people can be, but they will shut it off. But that person that you hug, that you just go, God, that's a good hug. Usually that's someone who has like a whole lot of sexualness, and they're willing to be that. It's like nurturing, caring, you know, this healing, creative energy. And then you've got orgasm, which is the energy for the creation of life and the creation of your body. It's like, you know, it's that, you know, what if your life could be this orgasmic experience with everything you do, whether it is having sex or cooking or, you know, eating or anything, even heck, going to work. It's like, what if it was this orgasmic experience? I can say, talking to you, Karen, and the topics that we're on, it's later for me at night and I've had a really full-on busy day, but I can perceive my body being more awake and alive because we're talking about this. And my body's going, yeah, we can play. we can be touched. We can have all of that. And it's this like an awakening is what I would say. And what if you could have that all the time? So that's the elements of sex that we talk about in access consciousness. So, and I see how much you sort of like peaked and sparked into that, and then really come out with some brilliant stuff. So please check out Karen's website, because like I said, you can start with an erotic story. I think they're like €12.50 or something like that. She's got the programs, she's got private sessions, she's got all of this. Even just have a look. If you are you go, oh, I could never do that. Just go have a look at Karen's website, and then just even put your hands on your body somewhere and go, hey, body, if you tap into this energy, it's like, what can you receive from this? Like, you don't have to jump in all out, and you can. It's like, please, my demand of myself is to make sure that everyone in the world knows that they have a different choice available. Whatever you're currently choosing, you can choose something different. You can choose something greater. You can choose more ease. You can choose more joy. You can choose anything you desire. That you've got to come out of the judgment of you, and also the projections and expectations of others that, so often sort of validate the limitations that you've decided you have and stop you from choosing something. So I just think this is fabulous, Karen, that you've done this. It's like, you go, girl. It's like, how does it get any better than this? That you're actually, doing this and being this. And I can sense that you have like this joy in your world, and a joy with your body as well doing this, rather than when you mentioned these two guys that, weren't treating you that well, or there was this dishonoring, I guess, at the beginning relationships. And you're like, hang on a second. That's not my reality. There's something else available.
Yeah. It's also like healing your trauma of this life and other lives.
I love that. Yeah. Because how many people actually live in the trauma and drama of something that happened many, many years ago, or another lifetime? And what if every day is a new day?
Yeah.
Like, great question to ask. Who am I today, and what grand and glorious adventures can I have? And what if this was the adventure that you chose? Do some erotic writing. I love it. Yeah. So where can people find you, Karen? Do you want to say your website and Instagram or anything like that?
Yeah, so my website is www.karenvanthuyne.com. Yeah.
And you guys got that right? Yeah, Vanthuyne, but we'll have it in the show notes. So, and you can find that. And so is there anything else you want to mention to the readers that I haven't asked you about that you would like to mention and talk about? I mean, not the readers, the listeners.
Just go for it. Find your fantasy, find what you want in your life about sexuality, and explore with it, discover it. You're gonna see it's a different thing if you explore it and discover it.
I love that. Honestly, when you say that, my body just goes, it's like,
it's
so
like,
thank you.
Get the fun in back.
Say that one more time. You cut out.
Bring the fun in back in the sexuality.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So thank you so much for coming on here, Karen. A podcast with a little bit of a difference, and hopefully it excites all of you yummy bodies out there. And I also would like to invite everyone to go check out relationshipsdonedifferent.com. Like I said, there are RDD, we call them, Relationship Done Different facilitators all over the world. Fabulous, using access consciousness tools in relationships, body, sex. What I find is most of the time when people come to these classes, they end up discovering, oh, I get to have a great relationship with me. And it's like, and when you choose that, it's like, oof, what you can have with others is really such an adventure, and so much bigger than what you've ever thought. So yeah. So thank you, Karen, for joining me here today. And I'll see you somewhere in the world, in Europe, maybe, when I go there at the end of the year. So thank you. And goodbye, everyone. And don't forget, if you want to subscribe, it's like, then we send you all the show notes. We do all of that stuff, and you get the podcast in your inbox weekly. So thanks again. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to hit the follow or subscribe button on your favorite listening platform to get notified of new episodes. We read all the reviews, so if there's any topic you would like to hear about, let us know. If you'd like to know more about the tools, information, and classes mentioned in the podcast, head on over to SimoneMilasas.com and follow me on Instagram at Simone Milasas, or the podcast has its very own link on Instagram at Choice, Change, and Action. Don't forget, you can download the show notes, and lastly, have way too much fun today.